amidst uncertainty. So tonight we'll explore strategies and insights for strengthening emotional resilience in Nigerian households with our expert guest, Chidima Aduba, a family life coach. And when we open our phone lines, we'd love to hear what you have to say. But first, let's take a break and we'll see what we found in the news. Please stay with us. You're still watching Ways. World Red Cross and Red Crescent Day is observed annually on May 8th. It commemorates the birthday of Henry Dunant, the founder of the International Committee of the Red Cross and the recipient of the first Nobel Peace Prize. The day serves as an opportunity to recognize and appreciate the incredible humanitarian work carried out by the Red Cross and Red Crescent societies around the world. These organizations provide vital assistance during emergencies, disasters, conflicts, and other crises, offering aid to those in need of, regardless of nationality, race, religion, or political affiliation. World Red Cross and Red Crescent Day also aims to raise awareness about the importance of humanitarian efforts and encourages people to support and volunteer for these organizations. All my life, I've known about the Red Cross. Would you believe that I only heard about Red Crescent in this current Israel-Gaza conflict? I'd never heard of Red Crescent. Yeah. But I mean, the minute I heard it, it made sense, right? Yeah. But I'd never heard of it. So it was in the very early days of Israel's incursion into Gaza. And then when, you know, all the trucks and aid was piling up on the Egyptian side of the border. And then they kept on saying, oh, the Red Crescent, Red Crescent. I'm like, what's Red Crescent? And then at some point, the light bulb just went off in my head, like, oh, Red Cross, Red Crescent. You learn something new every day.
Every day.
But I mean, they do great work. For as long as I can remember, they've always been at the center of every crisis, of every issue, and all around the world. So I think the three organizations that stick out for me like that, you've got the Red Cross, you've got Doctors Without Borders, and then the one that I think really stood out for me was, I think it was during Ebola, was MSF, Medicine Sans Frontières, the French one. So yeah, so the people that do these good works, God bless them, because I don't know that I would be an aid worker and charge into a war-torn zone. As much as I love people,
literally volunteer to go to these places.
Yep. So I don't know that it would be me. So celebrating everybody that's ever volunteered for.
Thank you for the great
the Red
work
Cross,
for humanity.
Exactly, the Red Cross, the Red Crescent. Thank you for demonstrating Ubuntu. So
Actually,
yep. So let's start with Dami. What did you find for us in the news?
Okay. What I found for us in the news is a rather sad news. So there was a gas explosion that killed 3 people and injured 1. Sorry, give me a second. I think I lost my... Okay, great. Yeah, killed 3 people and then 1 was injured. So I think it happened somewhere in Lekki on Tuesday, right? And according to the director, Chief Executive Officer of the Lagos State Fire and Rescue Service, Margaret Adesheye, she had said that this happened. It could be attributed to explosion. To malhandling or mishandling of the gas cylinder. So apparently there was about a 50 kg industrial gas cylinder that was assembled in the front rows of shop. And I think because gas is a very it's just like people that keep their gas cylinders inside
their
very enclosed space. If the heat is too much, it can just explode, and gas explosion is always really bad. It's not something that can easily be contained. Once it explodes, it just goes off. It's just sad that these people lost their lives, but I don't know. Maybe if there's a way, I don't know if there are ways or if there's even any avenue to even maybe lecture these people on how to actually preserve their gas properly, because we can't be losing people to this gas explosion every now and then.
Public safety talks. I remember growing up on TV then, you used to have all these don't drink and drive campaigns. Remember when they were doing the ORT campaigns and all of those things. So for me, it's like we've lost... Well, I guess I don't watch a lot of terrestrial TV, so I also cannot say whether or not the huge part of Dosumu market in Lagos. And it was down to somebody's mishandling of a generator. And these are things that, we can really educate people about, really at the grassroots level, so that sad incidences like this don't occur.
It's just really sad because even up till now, you still have some families that even put their generators in the house, very
All
close
the
to
balcony.
the house.
Yeah.
And then people don't wake up again because they've inhaled a lot of carbon monoxide. Come on, like I don't know.
There's a
I
lot
think
of
there should be a lot
education.
of sensitization going on around the place, telling
Absolutely.
people how to actually handle these things.
Well, may their souls
Rest in peace. Amen.
Diala, what did you find for us?
Okay, so mine is POS agents frown at CAC's registration mandates, says customers will pay more. So this came from the Corporate Affairs Commission that says that all POS agents must, do registration and
And this is a mandate from the CBN, right?
yeah. And while of course there were a lot of agents who are already complaining and saying that the charges or whatever cost they incur might have to be borne by the end user, which is the average customer, and that it also somewhat negates the whole point around the financial institution getting closer to the grassroots, to foster financial inclusion, However, I would also like to say that while there may be some merits to this, it is also important to understand that we can't have nameless and faceless people doing POS.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people have become victims, of this. So if there is a way that, they can implement this policy that does not necessarily, allow this, people doing this kind of business, to incur charges, because a lot of them, they actually live and survive on that commission. You have students, you have all that. So I'm all for it. I think it's a fantastic policy because by then, you'll be able to validate people and businesses, and it's all for the greater good. But again, it should just be done the right way.
The right way.
So that right way is really the main thing that I took from this story. So there was the financial inclusion agenda, and that framework is many, many years old. I think that one of the things we don't do very well is think holistically about execution, about the potential problems. So it always feels like these policies are now coming out to close gaps, right? You've succeeded to a measure, right, in this sort of financial inclusion, agency banking. They just sprung up over. It felt like it was overnight, and they were everywhere. In fact, I think that the Redeemed Church needs to borrow their mandates. Since that's their plan to be on every street and everywhere. Because
5 minutes is a lot,
So these guys seem to be everywhere. So clearly the framework was right, it was working, but I think it wasn't thought through properly to say, how do we secure this process? If we hit critical mass, we want to scale. When we scale, how are we going to keep a fence around it? So I find that in the current administration of the CBN is doing a lot to infuse, the sector with security measures. They're sort of closing a lot of loops in many places. So like you, I agree that it's a good policy. When we have BVN, we have all of this, we need to be able to track. So we need to know who these people are. So hopefully the CAC is poised to be able to take on that volume. 1.9 million is no joke. So my story, very quickly, this caught my attention because of what we were talking about yesterday with demolitions and, and that. So it says, Lekki corridor meant for farming, not housing, says Lagos government.
That's a huge one.
Again, comes back to, the thought process. So you see, the Lagos State government yesterday revealed that many who acquired agricultural lands in the state often use them for real estate purposes, saying the entire Lekki corridor was zoned for agriculture but was taken over by housing development. And you allowed it to happen?
Exactly. And these people are paying land use charges,
thank you, right?
And you're collecting.
Thank you. So
then after a few years, you then come and demolish all the things that they've already
exactly our point, right? So this was actually the Commissioner for Agriculture, Abisola Olusonya. She was disclosing this at a ministerial briefing, media briefing yesterday, and she says that the food market is worth 5 billion in daily transactions and 5 trillion yearly. That's the Lagos food market. Right, and she says that the government is committed to ensuring that the land for agriculture is used for intended purpose. Well, there needs to be a lot more collaboration between herself and the lands registry, because things are happening and houses are being built, and then when it comes time for demolition, then it becomes a problem. So she says that there is what is it called now? There is a 5-year agricultural and food systems roadmap from 2021 to 2020, which is that 5-year period is from 2021 to 2025. So we're already almost at the end of it, as well as the food security systems policy document. Again, it's not for lack of policies. Execution is really where
and sustainability
exactly is where it falls flat. So really, like I said, it's just the fact that where's the planning permission? Where's the town planning? At one point, it seemed like every graduate was studying town planning. Where are all the town planners, right? So yeah, we just hope that the government can figure out how to be more organized and proactive in making sure that we're not hearing these things in retrospect.
It's rather sad because there's Yemi Alade has been on.
She's been ranting
about
media.
it. Doesn't make sense because how have people, acquired land several years back and have built something, and then you just come and say you want to demolish it because
absolutely, it is quite sad, but yeah, we hope the government gets it right eventually. Amen. So we'll take a quick break now, and when we come back, we'll dive into today's conversation. Please stay with us.
I think that this is time where, we're trying to move this country forward. All hands should be on deck. And this is a time where the drivers of this economy should begin to ask the right questions. If you say that Nigerians are losing faith in the currency or the naira, then why is that happening? Why are we losing faith? If we can answer that question, then we get to the next. So what can we now do? And how do we do it? So these are some of the questions that we need to ask. But of course, it's not far-fetched. We already know what the answer is. We already know what the challenges are. First of all, you want to talk about, the fact that you need to close the gap between, inflation. So, for instance, as I talk about the U.S. inflation rate is at 3.5, if I'm not mistaken, for 2024.
If we
and you're looking at Nigeria, 3 point, come on, and we're talking about 33 point something at this point in time. So, but it's already been established that if you have these, two countries, one that has, a higher inflation rate, the value of the naira or the value of their currency would always drop.
Efficiency in terms of electricity distribution. People should be able to see this power being generated. When you see that power is generated, you won't really complain in payment. However, the hike in price was quite sudden. Yeah, the next clarifications that it only affects about 1.9 million Nigerians, that about 10 million more are still under subsidy. And it begs the question, are they not Nigerians? The so-called 1.9, are they not entitled to some form of subsidy? This should happen in phases, not outright like 200% increase. That is so, will I say, uncalled for. And looking at the fact that subsidy has been removed on petroleum products like a year ago, bringing about this one now makes it difficult for everybody at the same time.
There is a conversation around whether electricity is basic amenity or utility, or whether it's a commodity. In the days when we were swimming in petrodollar, 70s, 80s, and things like that, you could think along that line, but not today again. Electricity is a commodity. It has to be sold. So when we get more money from it, we can then develop the power sector to the point where customers will be the ones to say, no, this is the hours of electricity that I want, because that's what I can afford. So if it is nighttime alone, you can enjoy the electricity, all well and good. Most of us travel out of this country, and we know that people don't play with their utilities. They pay for it. In Nigeria, we play with our utilities. We not only play with our utilities, we even vandalize. And we want a stable power sector. Where is that done?
Thanks for staying with us tonight. We're discussing the importance of fostering emotional resilience in families and exploring key strategies for strengthening family dynamics. Now let's delve deeper into this topic by inviting a family life coach to share her expertise and answer some pressing questions. Our guest today is Mrs. Chidima Aduba. She's a dedicated educator who owns and runs a successful school, Marv Angel Kids in Ogba, for over a decade. Beyond her professional life, she's also a family life coach, helping others navigate relationships and personal growth. Our topic tonight is fostering emotional resilience in Nigerian families. Please let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 08180384663. So, welcome, Chidima. Lovely to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Awesome, awesome. When I hear family life coach, I feel like you've seen it all. You've heard it all. And I want to believe that if I just go by some of the things that I read on social media, I feel like there's such a disconnect in what the family structure has become. Yes, and the dynamics. So, you know, there's so many contexts and sides to this topic today. But just even setting the scene, I think that for me, there's been a shift, right? The shift, you know, when we talk about culture changes over time.
Yes, please.
So the concept that people had of family, because the individuals that make up families have now changed, the concept of family in itself seems to have evolved into something, I don't want to say almost unrecognizable, but I think it's the mindset with which people go into it now. Yeah. So I remember when I first started to notice that shift. So I grew up in the 80s. I grew up in a time very much where dads were dads and moms were moms, right? Yes, dads, you know, there was always the pots with the plenty meats. And dad had, you know, all the money. Dad's no was no. When dad was in the house, you don't even want to slam the door. You're like, the HNIC is around. Everybody take dressing, right? But as I got older, I started to hear things like guys will be asking ladies, so what are you bringing to the table in this relationship? So it seemed like there was a shift in the expectations and the dynamics between men and women in relationships. Now you go as far as seeing stories where a woman says, hey, I don't want to tell my husband how much money I have. I don't know how I feel about my husband because he has married the second wife. I don't know if you saw that on social media. And she said she was doing well. The second wife was not doing well. So she's just looking at them. When she wants to have a nice meal, she goes out to eat. And I read it and I thought, I'm like, are you married to you? As in, this cannot be healthy. No, right?
It's not.
So in the face of those kinds of family dynamics, from your expert perspective, how has the family dynamic shifted and what impact does that now have on the emotions of the members of the family?
It's shifted drastically. It's shifted to the extent it's not making sense anymore. And the funny thing is everybody's buying it happily. And no one is considering what will it be like in the next 10 years with what I'm selling to these children, because we're selling it to them. We sell to kids whether we like it or not. We sell to them with our attitude, with the way we behave, with everything we do, with what we say, with the way we relate with people, we sell to kids. So nobody cares about what we're selling to these kids. It looks like our generation, this generation now of parents, don't care about what these children are going to be later. Because I remember growing up, my parents were worried about what you're going to be when I'm not here anymore. What will you be? Who will you be? I remember we always say my parents will be proud of me where they are right now. This generation, do they actually ask themselves, will I be proud of this thing I am doing? I see a very self-centered generation of parents right now. Because I see parents who don't, you know, I agree to self-care. I agree to the fact that you can't give what you don't have. I agree that if you don't have peace, you can't give peace. If you don't have love, you don't have love. But whereby you decide that you don't want love by yourself, not realizing that for the fact that you are deciding you don't want love, your children will not have love. Because that's not what you're selling to them. You tell, growing up, in fact, the fact is, if you say, my child, don't greet anyone, don't greet this person, one day they will not greet you. They will not. So when you look, we look at all those factors, we now know that the parenting style has changed. Even in the past, we had uncles, we had aunties, we had grandmas, grandpas. So why is everything going into a stint? When you hear family now, all I see is me, my wife or my husband, and our kids. Not realizing that those kids will grow, and those kids you want together will get married and become aunties and uncles to their nieces and nephews. And I know within you, you want them to be together. But right now, you're against being together for your own. No one is working towards it. Everyone gets upset at every little provocation, and you hear, family, get off them. Get off them. You don't need them. They are this, they are that. All these things have been there. People don't want to communicate anymore. Issues we're supposed to sit and talk about, nobody want to talk about it, we cut off. That's the problem. And I also think the finances, the economic situation, I also think it's pretty hard.
We are coming there.
Okay, so I want to go back to, Ute's question about how, the role, gender role, has affected our perspectives and our outcomes, our actions, all that ecosystem. But let me go back to the fact that, do you think that in some ways, because I hear you, and what I sense is that there is a whole lot of inadequate emotional intelligence.
Yes, please.
Now, do you think that the people parenting now are deficient in that regard because they probably don't even have this emotional intelligence? Again, we're coming from the backdrop of parents who say, sit down there, just sit down there, don't ask questions.
Yeah.
They don't care to know how they spoke to you,
How you felt
how
about
you
it.
feel. Nobody's concerned about how you feel. That's how people in the 80s were raised.
Yes, please.
So it's almost like parenting now, you want to overcompensate, because I hear that a lot.
Yes.
People say, oh, what I didn't enjoy then, I don't want to. You understand? So they're coming from this place of, well, it's not like I have this emotional intelligence and all that. So I probably can't even really tutor, mentor, or even teach or pass on what I don't have.
Yes.
Do you think that might be a problem, as a major driver, as to what is happening now?
Okay, I don't think it's a major. Some of the people you think don't have emotional intelligence, they have. I doubt they don't have. But it's a decision they've taken. The media has a lot. The social media has a lot. Peer pressure has a lot. Then want to be who you're not, has a lot. Because those that travel, or those that have not even traveled at all, are the major ones who want to be like those that are there. And those that are there are making every effort to retain the culture.
Hold what they have.
To hold the culture down. To make sure, our roots, we're keeping it while we're here. Here, we are visitors. We're keeping our roots. But those that are here want to be there. In fact, whatever they read or they see on the media becomes who they are.
True.
Like the Yoruba culture, I am not Yoruba. The Yoruba culture says, as a child, you need to prostrate before you greet. Fine. But you see people who are here, who are already saying, you don't need to bend down. No, you don't need to do that. You don't need to prostrate. Why would you ask my child to prostrate? Meanwhile, this is a culture that has been kept. Okay, let me tell you, growing up, when my dad is in the sitting room, if he has visitors, my mom will stand up and leave, except she's invited. But you see women who will take in fact, the major seat is where they will sit and wait, and you will hear we're equals. I'm not saying we're not equal. To me, there's something that keeps me going, something I tell every family I talk to. You see, a woman was made from the rib of a man. She was not made from his head to top him. Neither was she made from his feet to be trampled on. She was made from his side to be equal to him. From under his arm to be protected by him. From near his heart again to be loved by him.
Such an analysis.
Wow.
Do you get that? Do you get that?
deep.
So you cannot head him. You cannot head him. You bring crisis.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So the fact is, now we are more educated. Women are now more educated than in the past. It's an advantage for us. It's an advantage to us. But I don't think it should take our culture away from us. Our focus should be on maintaining our culture. See, there's something called family values. Every family has them. You can't say because I'm here, because I've moved from the east to Lagos. Now our family values, I throw you as I'm coming. When I got to, what's the name of the bridge? I throw you inside that water and I pass because I've passed. It's totally wrong.
Yeah.
Our cultures, our values, if we get back to it and teach our children that, not teaching by mouth, teaching by example, leadership, communicates more. There is no marriage or family you will come to and everything is all the time, well, everything is that way. There will be misunderstandings. But you need to know conflict resolution. How do we resolve the conflict happening right now? How do we take care of it? As a woman, as a man, it's not shouting. It's not making noise. So that's what I think.
So I like the point that you so rightly defined, but I want to now bring it forward a bit in terms of there is absolutely 100% hold on to your values. And I think I see where the disconnect is it's now the interpretation. Because I can hold on to my values, but then I bring it into the current times. So I may not necessarily have my child prostrate, right? But there is I may not go, when I say not prostrate now, you may not go full flat,
No, you can't
right?
go full right
But
now.
it could, bend.
Yes.
Or,
Bend,
again,
sure,
it's about the show of respect, is what I'm trying to say. So
Yes.
the interpretation of the value, which really is about respecting your elders
Yes, please.
and having a physical representation of
Yes,
that
please.
respect, there is now an interpretation. Now, the things that you were talking about, I think that the evolution of culture, people have experienced a lot of things. So young women today, they have heard plenty of stories. They have heard horror stories. So they're already at the point of, when is my turn? You will not catch me, right? So do you feel that the way, because you also touched on social media, that the amount of information that is now available extremely easily, in what I would call the olden days, but maybe not so long ago, you were limited to the stories you heard either from friends or maybe from the news. Once a day or twice a day. But now they're bombarded by information. So that brings into play the emotional intelligence. And not just the intelligence now, the resilience. Because you are being bombarded from all sides. I mean, that's why mental health is now a mantra, right? So how do we embrace these emotions that we are being overwhelmed by? And how do we build that resilience? Because I think that's the missing link, right? To know how to behave, how to preserve, how not to be impacted by external factors. So how do we build that emotional resilience?
For ourselves and the families. The fact is, number one is you need to know your priorities. You need to set it right. So when an information is coming to you, the first thing is, does it align with my priorities? If it's not aligning, you knock it off. You have to be emotionally intelligent there to know that this one does not align to my own priorities as a family, what we plan as a family, it doesn't align there. And also, I noticed another thing that is bringing problem is people need to have a good work-life balance.
Okay.
People are a lot stressed
Stressed, yeah, I agree.
because of work, because of the pursuit for money. And because that's where still the priorities there. Because what you laid as your priorities is asking for so much from you that you forget the family time. But when it's asking from you, at least there is no job where you don't go on a break. So there must be planning. The husband and wife must plan together, not just one person. Every family member, where the kids are grown up a bit, there should be planning.
Yeah.
They will come together to plan their timings. I personally don't have my kids here, but we still don't miss the family time. If technology has made it available, we're not going to miss it. We're going to take advantage of it. Otherwise, some of us are going to get drained. Because those things are what keep us together. They just keep us together. So no matter the information you have, because of what you're getting from family, because of the love you're getting from your family, you don't find it difficult. It's not that tough to keep.
Okay, I think that's a very good point and a very good note for us to take a break. So please stay with us. We'll be right back. So if you're just tuned in, we're discussing the topic fostering emotional resilience in Nigerian families. Please let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 0818-038-4663. Our phone line is also now open. You can call us on 0702-500-7749. Please remember to turn down the volume of your TV set so we can have a great conversation. So Dami, will come to you.
Yeah, so I found out that in a lot of families, right, parents don't talk so much about money or even how children can even manage or even be resilient in the face of this economic hardship. For instance, we are currently in a very very funny economical
Interesting
Situation.
we're in very interesting times right now. But then again, you see that a lot of children, they don't even know. I say children because I'm not saying necessarily actual children, like kids, even as grown-ups, but we're
They
still
don't
children.
know what is going on.
You know, we don't.
They're
most
still
people
making
don't
demands.
Yes, they don't even know how to manage, how to cope with these things. But if parents have done very good job at actually, you know, talking about finances with children, even the family finance, even teaching them how to manage, how to, you know, budget, how to do all of these things, it would have been better. So what do you think, what strategies do you think that caregivers or even parents can adopt to actually teach children how to be resilient in the face of economic hardship?
Number one here is the parents themselves. They have to be stable for themselves. They need to communicate. Are the parents communicating about finances? You can't, if you don't communicate about finances, about planning, about strategizing, because let's say we earn in this house, we'll bring in 5 million naira a month. It has dropped to 3 million naira. Remember, our expenses and everything need to drop. That's where strategy comes in. We need to change. We need to change the strategy, the planning. If you and I, as a couple, don't discuss it, because I keep my money, you keep yours. We make demands, we run the home. We don't even know whose pockets is getting dry. But the children will keep asking, because they don't even know. They don't even know. But if you're going to sit together with them, because they need to learn flexibility and adaptability.
Yes.
How to adapt. The thing has changed. We have moved from eating this to eating this. We have removed this from our meal because. It's not because we cannot take care of you. But right now, there is a situation. Everyone needs to adapt. You're not going to tell the children, we cannot take care of you. In fact, we are suffering, we cannot take care of you. That's a bad thing to say.
Yeah.
You're just messing up with their head. They're going to get confused. You're going to assure them that everything is fine. But daddy or mommy cannot do this at the moment. At this moment, daddy or mommy cannot do this. So what we need to do is we need to remove this. We need to cut down on this. Okay, we're using how many cars? 3 cars. We need to drop one. The fuel is not what we want to do right now. We run our generator 24/7. Now we have to run within so and so and so. PACN has come with higher tariff. Yes, the tariff is so high. So we can't run. You can't run the AC in your room for this number of hours. So all of you will stay and discuss it. These kids listen. They understand. They are humans. Even the 5-year-old, 4 years, they will understand you. But whereby you feel they are kids, we don't need to tell them. You don't even discuss with your husband. You don't. Everyone run their own show. Then there is chaos in the home. And you're enjoying your chaos.
So also, because sometimes, I think I read something on Twitter some time back, when a woman was saying her child just came back from school and child was wearing a very long face. Why? Apparently there was an excursion in their school and they had to pay a specific amount of money, but then the child, maybe the parents couldn't afford to pay for the child and the child felt bad. So now, don't you think that maybe also communicating family finances to children can also affect maybe their self-esteem, when they're out there in public spaces with their peers?
If it's communicated from home, you won't do that. Because as you're telling them from home, you're giving them the reasons. You're also encouraging them. And while nurturing them, they need to know they are unique.
Yeah.
What works for you does not work for me. They need to know. So you don't, that's why we say we nurture them to go against low self-esteem. You're nurturing them to go against low self-esteem. You don't want them having low self-esteem.
Yeah.
So because if not, it's not only the excursion. There are so many things others will be having. You will not
Be
have.
able to have.
When you get to the university, some drive cars. Some cannot. Some can never live in the hostel. In fact, if you go to where they are living it large. Then you know that where I'm coming from, this is our plan. And always let the children know the plan. The long-term plan. The long-term plan is very important. The long-term plan cannot be overemphasized on. Because the long-term plan is what, at that point, that's what keeps them down. You see these people, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. I know where I'm going to. Because there's a long-term plan there. So communication is extremely, extremely important. Communication is extremely important. You have to strategically find a way to teach your children this. You must find a way to communicate with them at every point in time. Let them know what is going on. And let me tell you, when children are aware of what is going on, those things don't move them. It's only move them because they believe you made them believe there is money. And now they've come for the money, you've started stories. Because they are ahead. You have to make them know, stay balanced, know that at this point we can't do this. We can do this and we can't do this. Once they get okay with it, all fingers are not equal. In every school, everyone is not equal. Any school you send them, I hear people, I've had this issue where I'm counseling and the man said, I want her to move the school out, move them out of this school. The reason is not because of the fees. The reason is because of the caliber of people in the school. I am not there. And I asked him, do you like what the school is doing? And he said yes. Can you afford the school? And he said yes. But all those are things you need to tell your children if this is what you want for your kids. You're the one having a problem here. You need to communicate. They will understand. Your children love you. So when you calm down and talk to them, and when you keep carrying them along, they will speak your language.
Yeah.
They will speak. In fact, when people ask them questions and they answer and you're somewhere, you know this is exactly what you would have answered if you were there, because you're carrying them along.
So we've talked a lot of what I'm picking up from the thread of what you said so far. All the communicating, all the passing on of knowledge. I want to talk about the emotions of children, because adults, let's even say, is past, is lost. If you take a lot of the people who again grew up in the 80s, like Diola said, you didn't speak, right? There wasn't an opportunity to voice how you felt about things. So I think a lot of kids in that era, we normalized, there was no discussion to be had.
Yes, please.
My daddy said, my mommy said, it's over,
that's
right? But today's kids, right,
You
that's
question
not how
you.
they're
Why?
being raised.
How?
Even in schools,
Where?
the schools
When?
are encouraging them to speak.
Yes, please.
They're more vocal, they're smarter. The world has moved on. You know, they're dealing with technology that we couldn't have dreamed of at our, you know, when we were that age. So now you have these children who are expressive, and you combine them with parents who may not be so expressive, who may not have a handle on their emotions. I was speaking to a friend of mine the other day. She has triplets, and she was saying how all three of her boys are so different emotionally, right? So she's had to pay attention, and they care for each person is different. And even that individual, in different contexts, the same person presents so many different emotions. So as parents today, I personally think that parenting today is so tough.
It is.
As parents today, how do we, and I like when you talked about work-life balance, because you also need to be paying attention.
Yes.
To be able to pick these things about your children.
Definitely.
You need to be present. You need to be paying attention.
Oh, sure.
I mean, how do we do it? It's just, it's simple. It seems impossible, even though I'm living it, but I mean, how?
Say, these children are not us. I tell parents, the children are not you. You are not the children. So you don't feel what they feel. Find out what they are feeling. Communication is number one, like I will always say. Then when training children, as they are growing, when they are young, you need to make them emotionally stable. You need to focus on everyone's strengths. Most of these problems come because we have done a lot of comparison. We have done a lot of things to these children. We have just turned them upside down already. And now we're ready for damage control, which shouldn't come in the first place. Everyone's strengths are different. In fact, you can be the A child. I am the C child, but there's a fantastic skill I have there you don't have. So that my skill should be celebrated as well. And also, let's learn when it comes to kids, let's learn to appreciate effort, not just results.
Yeah.
Let's learn to appreciate effort. I've put in so much energy on this. Fine, I didn't get to your goal, what you wanted me to bring up, but I've put in so much effort and you've seen my energy. Please commend it. When you commend it, I'm going to do better. I will know you recognized it. But when you don't recognize it, because you'll be clouded with the fact that I did not get this 90 you're asking for, it is a problem. You're dealing with me emotionally without knowing. That's why you see them running emotional, going up, going down. Today on social media, I said the teenage age is just 7% of a lifetime. So teenagers should know that. It's just 7%. So it's so small. In fact, ahead is a lot. So they should calm down. So when those things are changing, when all these things, and you're not teaching them problem-solving skills, whereby you do everything for them, why wouldn't they run emotionally up and down?
Yeah.
You get to do everything for them. Let them do things. Let them do, in fact, whatever they can do, age appropriate, allow them. I keep saying it. I see some houses where everyone, in fact, they don't want the sitting room or anywhere touch. You want it intact. You want this. So because you don't want anyone to pour water on the sink, they should not come and wash. Because you don't want this child to have poo on his bum. You will keep cleaning the bum by yourself. This child is turning 7. How is he going to get perfect cleaning it? Because the first day he will start, he will not clean it well.
Of course.
So the earlier you start it, the better. So problem solving skills, so that because they face life too, they have conflicts even as kids. They know how to manage it. So when issues come to them, they know how to manage it. So if you don't put that into consideration, you're going to come to that point where, as grown-up kids, they're going to be throwing their emotions up, down, tantrums, this, that, and you're like, what is going on? These children, there are so many things missing there. There's so many things missing
In fact,
there.
when you said that now, I just remember a conversation I was having with a friend of mine. I said, when I hear people calling their sons and their daughters my prince, my princess, I say, see, you are causing problem. This child will go outside now and think, I'm a prince, I'm a princess. But the truth is, life is not going to treat you like a prince.
Honestly.
Life is not going to treat you like a princess. You are unknowingly setting this child up for disappointment. You are special. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're special to
You're
me.
unique.
You're my son, you're unique. You're my daughter, you're precious. But you see this prince and princess.
I think
It
it's
has a negative
overcompensating.
side, yeah.
We just want to-
Overcompensating,
we
that's
want to
the
give them
issue.
everything.
Yes.
Everything we think we didn't have, we didn't enjoy, we didn't have the privilege, or we just want to do everything. So yes, I mean, you're very right in
you are.
saying that a lot of kids, if we don't do it right, they just end up being so self-reliant, and that becomes a problem to the parents.
Very
A
huge one.
problem.
Very huge
Very,
one.
So it's
You're
it's
going to
just-
run everything
yeah,
for them.
Yeah.
When they get married, they will keep calling you.
Absolutely.
For every issue.
Ridiculous. Jeez.
That's how, do you know how, that's how bullies come about?
Yeah.
Because they don't know how to handle
Yeah.
conflict. They feel the only way to handle conflict is to fight.
Yeah.
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 They can't communicate properly. They can't keep their emotions in check. Everyone runs the emotion thing, but you need to learn to keep it in check. You need to know, you need to teach your kids when to take a deep breath.
Yeah.
To say, this person is coming, you know what, when things happen, cry. Because you already know who you are.
Yeah.
So whatever the
regardless.
person is saying is none of
Doesn't
your
matter.
business. Do you understand? So all these things are things we need to put in place as parents. You don't put them in place. When I keep saying it, when they are 18, when they are 20. Even if you want them to go far in life, you start selling the big dreams to them on time. That's the long-term plan.
Yeah.
It's called the big dream. In what we do, it's called the big dream. That's the long-term plan. We're going to be this. Okay, what do you want to be? This will lead you to this, will lead you to this. Then you let them understand that you don't have this now and your mates have it. They have it because their parents bought for them. But you're going to have this at this point if you do this. And when they when they go off, you're going to come back to say, this thing you did, is it aligning with that our dream we have? Both of you will have that conversation.
Yeah.
And the child will say no. And it's not when they do it today. In fact, I was how will I say it? I was part of this. When I come today, I will say the thing you did yesterday until my son confronted me. And also, because these children talk now, have family meetings. I call typical family meetings, not to judge anyone, for people to express themselves.
Yeah.
If I know I can talk to my dad straight in the face, talk to my mom with so much respect, and they will listen to me, I don't care. When I go out there, it gives me that confidence. So that's it.
Wow.
I think a lot of parents also need to do better with conflict resolution.
Absolutely.
Because we have a lot of adults these days that don't know how to resolve conflict. And it's owing to the fact that their parents actually never even knew how to resolve conflict. Because there are a lot of houses where maybe the father is angry with the child, even rightfully so. But then again, the father just gives the child a whole silent treatment and he doesn't even talk to that child for like the whole day until later. And I'm like, so that child will then eventually grow up and also replicate that exact same thing, and that's where the problem begins. So I think
But
that a
that's
lot
it.
of parents should actually know how
But
to
they say, but do you know,
resolve
if you
conflict.
teach, if you teach children properly, do you know as you grow, I don't think you're doing everything your parent did.
Yeah, true.
So once you instill the right values,
Yes, the right values. As you're growing, you know what to
Yeah.
drop and what
Yeah.
to take in.
Yeah.
You know what is right and what is wrong. So it's not about the way we did it. I must do it the way my parents did it. Once all those qualities are in you, as you go, you know what to drop. You know what to carry on.
I agree.
Do you understand?
I agree.
Thank you so much, Chidima. It's been fantastic having you on the show. I think you've given so many nuggets, so many tips.
Honestly.
This is that kind of show that you
You
can
have
watch
to- you
and
can't
watch and watch
finish the-
again, and you pick up. But I think that this topic is so large. We
Vast.
didn't even get to the
At all.
topic of favoritism and all. So
all.
we will definitely love to have you back on the show at some point in the future. But thank you for joining us. Thank you, Dami. Thank you for Diola for doing this with me today. So before we go, do ensure that you follow us on Instagram at We Show Africa and Official Upgrade TV. You can interact with us further. Drop a comment. Remember to follow all our social media engagements and tell your friends and families to watch Ways. Don't watch Ways alone. So if you missed today's quote, here it is. You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. Very, very
Absolutely.
wise words. So we'll see you again tomorrow at 8 p.m. as we bring another great conversation to your screens. Have a good evening.
This is it. I will take you through this amazingness today.
Welcome to Cross Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
I was pushed to the point that I had to start something not numb. And I'm a big risk taker and I enjoy doing things that nobody really does. I wanted something different from every other art form that has been pushed out there. I didn't have that fulfillment in what I was doing and I really wanted to express myself more as an artist, and I decided to resign and go into practicing art full time. I loved subjects that had illustrations or drawings in them. I just kept pushing it and went to the extent of studying art in school. So it's been art all my life for me. I try to conceptualize what I want to create in my head. Even in as much as scattered as it might be, I create it in my head first, then I put it on paper. I sketch, then I try to pick colors, and I proceed to the main piece. A friend of mine told me, like, there's really nothing that could be achieved with graffiti here. The piece behind me is titled Bold Steps. So I'm just trying to put my own, it's an abstract journey of African fashion has come so far. The word there is Ikeakpa. Ikeakpa is a Bini word for movement. So we are it's just a movement, and we have the shoes here which shows the flow and the storm which the movement creates while working. I'm Osa 7. I'm an African urban artist and design consultant.
crisis is the most pressing issue of our times, and the best weapon against it is awareness. This is where journalists play a crucial role in forming and raising awareness in society to increase understanding of the need for environmental protection. Hello everyone and welcome to Our Voices. I am Simen Sheikh Oye and I'm joined by my co-host Anastasia Tudieshe.
Hello.
Hello. And Ginny Niwa is back with us.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Orion Itang Shaka is off today. Today, the world celebrates World Press Freedom Day under the theme Journalism in the Face Environmental Crisis. And we will discuss the role of media in shaping public perception and policy making regarding environmental issues. Hello again.
Hi.
Hi. So here at VOA, we constantly cover, climate change issues and other environmental degradation issues, especially on Africa. So how do you connect the role of the media with climate change?
Well, I mean, let's go back 20 years ago. The media used to warn everybody about climate change, and it was like a rumor. It was like, you believe it or you don't. But right now, everything is happening right in our face, but we still need more information. They still need, a need for awareness. So yes, the media has a very important role in, covering climate change.
Have you seen any reporting maybe?
Yeah, so Ginny and I come from the Congo, a country known to have the second world's lung regarding the forests. And exactly at that time last year, I was publishing a piece for the British think tank Chatham House. And the name of the piece was The Role of the Congo's Forests, Peatland and People in Safeguarding the Planet. And what I discovered is that women in the forest, in the environmental world, and in rural areas are welcomed as part of the labor force, but excluded from decision making.
Yeah.
So they are organizing and creating organization so that they can have a say to the decision making when it comes to
I like
nature.
the point you made, especially women are the most affected by climate change impacts.
Absolutely.
When I was a journalist in Ethiopia, I intensively covered climate change issues, environment issues, and I had a chance to travel around the country to see the impacts, not only in Ethiopia. I even went to rural areas of Zambia, Malawi, Tanzania, South Africa, Botswana. I have seen how especially women are suffering from climate change related impacts. I have seen how families lost their farmlands and their resources, and women cannot feed their children anymore because rain is not coming and the field is not giving grains, or the pastoralists, they are not getting enough milk to give to their children anymore. And for women, because they are financially insecure and because they are less educated, they end up being displaced. And they don't even own land, right? Yeah. So they get displaced and they even get exposed to other gender-based violence.
Indeed.
And you can see that how, there is a lot of issues when it comes to climate change impacts. And sadly, they don't even know what's happening to them, right? That's where the media comes in creating awareness.
Absolutely.
Well, Africa is the least contributor to the rise in greenhouse emissions, with only 2 to 3% of the world's carbon dioxide emissions. However, according to United Nations, African countries are disproportionately facing the impact of climate change, including increased drought and floods. In East Africa, for example, recent deadly floods have killed at least 155 people in Tanzania and affected more than 200,000 others. In Kenya, at over 170 people have died since the start of the rainy season in March, while overflowing of Lake Tanganyika in Burundi have displaced more than 130,000 people from their homes. That's why climate reporting is not optional. United Nations says journalists have a responsibility to inform the public of climate change threats and educate them on how to make better decisions for themselves, their communities, and their planet. But not without a risk. As International Press Institute reports, journalists covering environmental stories are often subjected to arrest, physical violence, online attack, restricted access to information, and freedom of movement. On this week's edition of Our Voices, we will focus on the important role of environmental journalism and the challenge they face as they seek to document environmental effects.
This year's World Press Freedom Day theme is journalism in the face of the environmental crisis, and a South African media outlet called Ox Pickers focuses on exactly that. For VOA, Kate Bartlett spoke to some of its journalists about what drives and challenges them as they report on people and practices that hurt the planet.
Thabo Malulekwa was a news junkie from a young age. He recalls how growing up, he used to beg his dad to let him watch a current affairs show that aired way past his bedtime.
I told myself that one day I will be a journalist and I will help the communities. And up to now, the stories that I write, I make sure that there must be some kind of action or some kind of answers that comes from the policyholders, the people in the government.
As an award-winning reporter with Oxpacker's investigative environmental journalism, a media outlet headquartered in South Africa, he does exactly that, at some risk.
In the stories that I do find officials hiding information from me, and when I go to dig deeper, some of the people will say, please, you can publish this, but anonymously. That shows you that here there is some kind of danger, something is being hidden.
He remembers reporting on illegal mining at an abandoned gold mine in Johannesburg.
We tried to get some footage, but we were told that here, guys, you can be shot. And you don't want to go next to those people because there are powerful people that they are working for. You ask for an interview, you are dead.
But he keeps reporting, saying the issues he covers are crucial to people in impoverished communities who don't have a voice. And Oxpacker's stories do make a difference. An investigation into mining near a major water source in South Africa brought change.
And there were plans by a mining company to mine coal. We reported on that, and that has resulted in a lot of changes around policy and laws relating to mining and how it should operate.
Oxpackers relies on cutting-edge technology combined with boots-on-the-ground reporting to expose environmental offences and track perpetrators.
We've also used a range of other tools that include satellites, drones, and various multimedia tools. So we combine geojournalism, data journalism, and these other new media tools with traditional investigative journalistic techniques.
Oxpacker's website includes mapping and data sets on mining, wildlife crime, timber issues, renewable energy, and more. While focused on Southern Africa, the non-profit has expanded its network to Asia and Europe. Many of these stories focus on wildlife crimes involving endangered African species like rhinos and pangolins. Again, Oxpacker's stories have proved consequential. McLeod says its reporting has led to the prosecution of a number of trafficking kingpins. Kate Bartlett, VOA News, Duduza Township, South Africa.
Thanks, Kate, for that report. Now, to learn more about the challenge in covering the environment as well as climate-related issues in parts of Africa, we have invited Sophie Mbugua, an environmental journalist and media consultant based in Nairobi, Kenya. Sophie is the founder of Africa Climate Conversations, a multimedia platform that includes a weekly 30-minute podcast highlighting the climate change story from the African perspective. Sophie, it's a great pleasure to have you on Our Voices.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you have dedicated your journalism career to exclusively cover climate change, energy, and other environment-related issues. So how do you evaluate the impact of climate reporting on society?
Climate change is, I would say, it's more real now. It's hitting home more today. As you can see, not only is it flooding in East Africa, we're also experiencing a lot of drought. We have actually, when you look at Zimbabwe, there've been a lot of issues in terms of drought, Southern African region in terms of issues, lack of water. We've had heat waves in West Africa. And it tells you like this is not just an issue that was seen, because it was seen from a far end, something that is emanating from the West, but it's something that we need to take serious. And there's something that we need to actually do more research in terms of looking forward, in terms of where we are going, what exactly the projection, what is expected. The science has been there, but I think it calls for more understanding and for more action and understanding that is not something that needs to be done tomorrow, but it's something that needs to be done today, because it's impacting people directly every single day.
And thank God, voices like yours, Sophie, are here to remind all of us of that. As a reporter back in DRC, I found it at times challenging to be a woman in my field. Do you find it particularly challenging to do what you do?
At the beginning, yes, I did. At the beginning, because in the first place, someone sees you, but they're like expecting that you're not going to go far. Or sometimes you find yourself in a situation where, favors, for you to access some information in terms of other, say, for example, people expect different aspects that you're not going to actually be able to last for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But then over time, once you understand this is actually, because for me, I quit my job, my radio job, to actually do this, environmental protection. It is something that I found this is what I want to do. And so at the beginning, you have to create a niche for yourself, and you have to actually understand, look forward in terms of where do I want to go in the couple of years that I want, in the next coming years. And then you strategize and you realize that we are all equal in one way or another. But then again, it's that one particular aspect to realize I am a woman, yes, and the people that I am actually, reporting about in communities that I meet every other single day, and meeting especially women who are really highly impacted by climate change. But also it's that aspect of realizing that when it comes to climate change, all of us are innate. It's not about men and women are impacted differently, but also it comes in terms of when it comes to issues of reporting. Sometimes there are places that I found myself in situations where as a woman, in terms of security, of not being able to access, or maybe, there are different dimensions when it comes to access and security when it comes to women and men.
I bet. So did you notice a change once you made the decision and stayed the course in people's reaction?
Respect. You realize, at the beginning, I remember the first time, there is someone who, once I was reporting and they looked at me and they didn't take me seriously, because once I was a freelance, secondly, they had not seen me on any major platform back here at home, because much of my work that I've done was actually, I actually reported for international media. And so I remember one person, really profiling you. I think that's what I would actually say. I was profiled mainly at the beginning, but I think as time went by and people started reading my work, people started seeing the work that I'm actually doing, and you can send someone links and they can associate you with specific media houses and sometimes big media houses, then I found respect, that people now, you start commanding some respect that at the beginning wasn't there.
Nice. And I mean, just the fact that, you quit your job to solely focus on this issue, that says a lot about, the urgency of what's going on right now. But also, I want to go back to what you said earlier. It's hitting home. So what are the pressing issues, in Kenya or elsewhere in the continent in relation of climate change that you have seen and experienced?
I think the pressing issues that, for me, I would say we need to ask ourselves as a continent, the pressing story is asking, should Africa move at the same pace that the world is moving? The reason I'm saying that is because, yes, climate crisis is an emergency. When you, at the beginning, we said that Africa is contributing very little in terms of emissions. Mm-hmm. But then again, you find a continent that is not prepared. When Paris Agreement was actually passed, you find that many African countries were very fast, and they were very fast in terms of adopting this particular agreement. But then again, look at what we did in terms of drafting our NDCs. Much of that was drafted not specifically in terms with research in terms of where we're going, but mainly was drafted by for depending on where the money was coming from. And you also find right now the rush in terms of implementing, mitigating climate. Yes, I completely understand the urgency and the need to go carbon neutral. But then again, I feel like Africa needs to pause.
And that's where we will end. We would love to keep you longer, Sophie. But thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. We'll take a pause right now. We really want to thank you, Sophie Mbugua, founder of Africa Climate Conversations, for sharing your personal experience and extensively covering climate change on the continent as we mark World Press Freedom Day. We will continue our conversation on how media can help fight climate change and ways to support it. When we come back, we will also hear from Lisa Palmer, Research Professor of Science Communication at George Washington University. We also love, you know that, to hear from you on social media platforms. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter, and our handle is at VOA Africa. Don't forget to use the hashtag VOA Our Voices. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linor Moudou, in Washington, every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
You're watching VOA's Red Carpet. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. Thank you so much for joining us each week right here on Red Carpet. We bring you the latest in
You are with Our Voices and welcome back. Today we are celebrating World Press Freedom Day, which is marked around the world under the theme Journalism in the Face of Environmental Crisis. Joining us in the studio is Lisa Palmer, Research Professor of Science Communication at George Washington University and Senior Editor and Education Lead at Planet Forward Eco-Journalism Program. Ms. Palmer is also award-winning environmental and science journalist, and she has a book titled Hot Hungry Planet, The Fight to Stop a Global Food Crisis in the Face of Climate Change. Ms. Palmer, it's a great pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Of course. And your book mainly discusses the planet's greatest challenge in terms of climate change. So how do you see the role of the media in this fight?
Well, I think the more we talk about climate change, the more we can start to focus on solutions. You know, the climate change is occurring all over the world. As my students today are able to even write stories about how their lives already have been impacted by climate change, no matter where they come from. So we know that climate change is occurring. It's largely affected by what humans are doing, and it will have devastating effects for human populations all over the world. And so we don't have to go far to be able to tell stories on this. But I really like to say that the media has a job to do about reporting more on the solutions of what's available.
Do you say that it's playing the role, or is it yet to play?
It still needs to play. I think it's definitely failed in many areas in journalism because, number one, there's been a huge number of cuts in environmental journalism. It's not necessarily the biggest clicks. We know that the stories are complex. People don't want us to stick with a complex story. And so there's a lot of lack of funding for these important stories that aren't easy to do. They have to go into some hard-hit places. They're often remote and sometimes on private land. And they're, like you said, others have said, they are often put the reporter in kind of some vulnerable conditions. I've been in those myself, and so it's not for everybody, but these are important stories to tell.
Definitely.
Before we continue our conversation, let's hear from journalists on the continent about their role in climate change reporting. Our reporter Sheila Pony from South Sudan capital, Juba, spoke to Awan Achek, a journalist from the Dawn Daily newspaper, freelance journalist, Legoni Denis Mouye, Jennifer James, a reporter at the City Review newspaper, and last but not least, Dennis Maurice Mimbugbe, an environmental broadcast journalist in our Your Voice segment. Take a listen.
The role of journalists is very simple, is to educate, inform, and entertain the public. So we understand there's a lot of issues to do with the environment in the country. We have things to do with the floods last year and other things that are related to the environment. So our role there is to educate the public about the impact of environmental issues on them and other issues related to environment.
Journalists in South Sudan have done their part as far as reporting on these issues are concerned, but there are still some challenges as far as reporting on these issues. When you look at floods and drought in the country, you realize that all these issues do happen in places where there is insecurity, where it is inaccessible for a journalist to go to those places. So it becomes very difficult for a journalist to go get right-hand information from the source. In other countries, you'll find that there is always updates that are given as far as environment is concerned. But in our country, there's nothing of such. So we need to have more scientists, and because environment is about science, and without science, journalists cannot report accurately on these issues of flooding and drought in South Sudan.
As a journalist, my role concerning this year's theme is I should inform the public on the danger of polluting environment. And second to that, I supposed to write stories that will hold government officials accountable because they are not following their roles. For instance, if we looked at South Sudan currently, we have a lot of environmental issues untouched, and government are quiet. As a journalist, it's my role to wake them up and hold them accountable and let public know that government are supposed to do ABCDs.
The challenge we face is that lack of knowledge in reporting on environmental issues. Reporting on environmental issues, there are certain things you're supposed to talk about. There are certain impact there are certain elements you're supposed to point out in a story. But now, sometimes if a journalist is not trained how to report environmental issue on science issue, it will be very difficult. If you want to report, you'll see journalists reporting only flat, forgetting other important issues.
Yeah, that's thank you so much for the reporters for sharing. And I like the point she raised about the gap in information
Absolutely,
access.
and that was my question, Lisa. Earlier, you mentioned that journalists, environmental journalists, could do and should do more. And do you see that there is a gap between scientists and journalists?
The scientists are now starting to come along with the importance of communicating with journalists and collaborating more on some stories, and so I'm seeing a lot more potential there for storytelling.
So how can we help media and journalists, equip them more to report more on climate change issues?
Well, I think having convenings and getting people together with sharing ideas and resources is one way. We do at Planet Forward. It's a storytelling platform at George Washington University to help to lift the skills of early career journalists, and so we work with them on at an annual summit, but also work with journalists throughout Africa with Mandela Fellows we host every year as interns, as well as reporters from Cameroon and Nigeria this past year.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
You're doing an amazing job.
Very amazing job. And maybe one more, like
attacks against journalists, especially, and female journalists are getting attacked in different ways than male journalists, and so having the sensitivity there among the editorial boards of your various news publications, it's really important to work on that. Advocate for journalists to be able to tell these stories and to support them in what they need to be able to cover the stories effectively.
Maybe a tip for them on how to protect themselves while exposing these stories?
Yeah, there are definitely some trainings there. For instance, if you're going to the field, communicating with others where you are at all times, having regular check-ins, co-reporting with other people so that you have a few people that are working on a story. A witness for that.
All right. Thank you so much, Lisa. It was a great pleasure having you. And this is where we end our show. We thank our environmental journalists that joined us today, Sophie Mbugua, founder of Africa Climate Conversations, and of course, Lisa Palmer, professor of science communication at George Washington University and senior editor of Planet Forward. Be sure to watch our voices on the VOA website at voaafrica.com or on our YouTube channel, where you can catch up on the latest episodes and the world's top news stories. Last but not least, we thank our editorial and production team on Our Voices. We'll see you again next week with another exciting program. Be sure to continue the conversation on our social media platforms. Until then, thanks for watching.
Good afternoon, I am Shadi Uwe, and this is a news update. A former aviation minister, Hadi Sirika, has pleaded not guilty to the alleged corrupt practices involving about 2.7 billion naira brought against him by the federal government. Sirika was arraigned before Justice Silvanus Origi at the Federal High Court in Abuja, along with his daughter, Fatima, his son-in-law, Jalal Suley Hama and the firm Al Burak Global Investment Limited. The daughter and son-in-law also pleaded not guilty to the 6-count charges when read to them. Justice Origi admitted the 3 defendants on bail for 100 million naira and 2 shorties each in the like sum, and ordered that the defendants must not travel out of the country without express permission of the court. Justice Origi also ordered that they should be remanded in prison custody till the time of perfection of their bail conditions. The federal government has begun criminal proceedings against a Chinese firm, SSL Industry Company Limited, its managing director, Liu Shang, a director, Shi Shaw, and a Nigerian accountant, Babatunde Ayeni, for alleged tax fraud. In a 4-count charge filed by the EFCC, SSL Industry, Chang, Shaw, and Ayeni were alleged to have evaded the payment of the value-added tax estimated at 2.1 billion by falsifying audited account statements, income tax returns. The judge averred that the prosecution gave a similar excuse when the case last came up. He gave the prosecution the last chance to produce the defendants in court, failing which he threatened to give the appropriate order as prescribed by the law. Justice Eko asked Njoku to suggest a date that would be sufficient to enable the EFCC produce the defendants in court, and the lawyer suggested October 22, which the judge adopted. Meanwhile, the Federal High Court in Asaba, Delta State has affirmed the authority of the Independent Corrupt Practices in Order-Related Offences Commission and the EFCC to investigate and prosecute Delta State government officials accused of corruption. Justice Folashade Olubanjo ruled that the 2 organizations, despite having similar mandates, do not infringe upon the principles of federalism and separation of powers enshrined in the Constitution. The court's decision came in response to a lawsuit filed by the Attorney General of Delta State contesting the investigative powers of the anti-corruption agencies about the state government's financial affairs and the summoning of state officials for questioning during investigations. The state government had requested the court to declare that only the state government, State House of Assembly, and State Auditor General have the constitutional authority to oversee the funds allocated to Delta State in the Consolidated Revenue Fund or any other state public funds as outlined in the Constitution of Nigeria. The Rivers State House of Assembly has once again overridden Governor Siminalayi Fubara by merging the Rivers State Local Government Amendment Law of 2015, 2023, and 2024 into a single law. Following the consolidation, the lawmakers unanimously passed this unified law. The purpose of this consolidation is to rectify any inconsistencies found in the individual amendments, such as the appointment process for the Local Government Commission Board and the remuneration of political office holders at the local government level. During the plenary session, Speaker Martin Omawole emphasized that members should not be swayed by the governor's remarks, as he lacks the legal authority to declare the actions null and void.
Consolidate everything into one legislation. We can have one single document which stands as the Rivers State Local Government Law for 2024. This bill is also making provision for the creation of the Local Government Service Committee for every local government. This Local Government Service Committee, according to this bill, which we have just resolved in the Committee of the Whole, will have that responsibility of recommending to the Local Government Service Commission on a number of matters, including matters affecting staff of their local governments.
Common knowledge says that the existence of human beings is being created by God Almighty. And the existence of the Rivers State House of Assembly is enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, precisely section 4, subsection 6-7. So, Mr. Speaker, I wonder why a sitting governor will go this far to make this unguided statement. I want to bring to the notice of this House that such statements are a plot for coup. I am very well displeased that the governor, without mixing words, clearly and was emphatically saying that he is putting it on record that the assembly is non-existent and getting powers to himself.
arrogating the judicial powers to itself, declaring the assembly non-existent. Mr. Speaker, it's an aberration.
We must continue to perform this task. We must not be distracted by the antics of our detractors, particularly those who don't read the Constitution. We must continue to do our job, knowing fully well that what we are doing is in the best interest of Rivers State.
The political turmoil in Rivers State has taken a fresh turn as certain members of the Rivers State House of Assembly who support Governor Siminalayi Fubara have chosen Victor Oke-Jumbo, the representative of Bonny constituency, as their speaker. Oke-Jumbo reportedly the new speaker for the entire 32-member assembly was elected at 10 a.m. during the plenary session on Wednesday following the House's standing order. He was among the 4 legislators who remain loyal to Fubara amidst the state's political crisis. During the crisis, they initially elected Edison Ehie as the speaker, but he later resigned from the state assembly and was appointed as the governor's chief of staff. The number of lawmakers present during the plenary that led to Oke-Jumbo's election as speaker remains unclear.
You will agree with me that after the House last sat on 13th of December 2023 and adjourned synodically, there has been an avalanche of legislative rascality perpetrated by the 25 former members of the 10th Rivers State House of Assembly, led by the former Speaker, Right Honorable Martins Chike Ameule. These former members, being fully aware of the provision of Section 1091 sub G of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, defected from the People's Democratic Party, PDP, to the All Progressive Party, APC, and on 11th of December 2023, consequently, the Right Honorable Edison Ehie, on the 13th of December 2023, wrote to the Independent Electoral Commission, INEC, declaring the seats of the 25 lawmakers vacant in line with Section 1091G and 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999. Further, my distinguished colleagues, there are plethora of cases pending in our courts further to the defection of the former lawmakers. All laws, plenary sections, and actions taken by the illegal House are hereby declared void. The executive arm, the judiciary, and the general public are hereby called upon to disregard every purported laws enacted by the illegal assembly, as they all amount to nothing and they are exercised in futility.
The People's Democratic Party, PDP, has cautioned the All Progressives Congress, APC, against considering the impeachment of Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara. PDP spokesperson Debo Ologun Agba issued the warning in response to the call made by Rivers State APC Chairman Tony Okocha for the State House of Assembly to impeach Fubara. Ologun Agba highlighted the subversive utterances of the APC chairman of Rivers State, which he believes could potentially lead to a crisis and disrupt the democratic order in the country. To other parts of Africa. Kenya's public hospital doctors have agreed to resume work, calling off a nationwide strike which lasted for close to 2 months. Davji Attila, the Union Secretary General, confirmed that doctors have decided to place their trust in the government to address the issues leading to the strike. This development comes after a labor court in Kenya had on Tuesday, May 7th, giving doctors and the government 48 hours to sign a return to work agreement, failure to which the matter would be determined by the court. The end of the strike comes as a relief to millions of Kenyans seeking health services from public hospitals that had been crippled by the strike. We will now go for a commercial break, and when we come back, the news continues. Stay with us.
Picture this. You're sitting at a table, ready to indulge in a mouth-watering meal. Stop. For many of us, it is hard to resist the temptation, especially when it comes to enjoying a juicy beef dish. But have you ever stopped to think about the impact of your food choices on the greater good? Our food choices have a great impact on others. The beef industry is one of the leading contributors to deforestation. As trees are cleared to make way for cattle ranching, it not only disrupts the delicate balance of ecosystems, but also contributes to climate change. We can make a difference with our choices. It does not mean we all have to become vegans overnight. Imagine enjoying fish and poultry a few times a week, indulging in beef just once a month, and filling our plates with plenty of plant-based goodness. Every little bit counts, and even small reductions in our intake can make a huge impact on the climate. By making smarter food choices, we're not only taking care of ourselves, but also the planet we call home. Remember, the choices we make today lead to a better tomorrow.
Welcome back. Now to news from outside Africa. Two top Israeli officials have criticized U.S. President Joe Biden for threatening to stop certain arms supplies to Israel if it invades the crowded Gaza city of Rafah. They described his statement as difficult and very disappointing. Israel has defied international objections by sending in tanks and conducting targeted raids in the eastern areas of Rafah. It says Rafah is home to Hamas's last remaining battalions, but the city on the border with Egypt is also crammed with displaced Palestinian civilians. Now moving on to business. The Corporate Affairs Commission has directed financial institutions to ensure compliance with the Central Bank of Nigeria's order on compulsory registration of point-of-sales operators within the country. In a statement, CAC said it had instructed banks to ensure registration on or before July 7th, 2024. The CBN had earlier, through a memo issued on April 30th, 2024, directed all non-individuals on the agent banking authorization to immediately take steps to register their businesses with the CAC in line with Section 863 of the CAMA Act 2020. The directive made it mandatory for POS terminals, whether as agents, merchants, or individuals, to register with CAC before commencement of business and onboarding of new customers. And in entertainment, ahead of the last chance to book a place in the 2024 Paris Olympics, African and Commonwealth Games wrestling champion Mercy Genesis has left for Istanbul, Turkey, with the hopes of earning a spot for the Games. Genesis, who narrowly missed out on qualification at the last African Oceania Olympic wrestling qualifiers in Alexandria, Egypt would be hoping to become the latest Nigerian athlete to secure Olympic qualification in Istanbul, Turkey, where the World Olympic qualifiers will take place. The multiple African champion, who was accompanied by her coach, Aku Purity, will take to the march on Friday against high-profile wrestlers in the world that missed out in their regional windows. It will be recalled that the qualifier in Istanbul will offer 54 Olympic quarters in all 6 weight classes of the 3 styles. And that's the news update. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. You can also view us from Limex on limex.tv and the Glow TV apps anywhere in the world. I am Sade Uwe. Many thanks for watching.
Toxic about the role of DJs in the African entertainment industry. Tems has finally dropped her debut album of her successful Coachella performance. We also check out some of the towns visited by Italian director Matteo Garrone for his Oscar-nominated film Io Capitano. Those stories, plus young people in Nairobi are embracing this. And artist Savi announced her debut album, Born in the Wild, by posting a 1-minute video teasing her project, which will be released this month. The clip presumably shows scenes from back home with children running around the beach that evoke memories from Tems' childhood. And we have some sad news to report. Congolese boxer Adin Dembo recently passed away 3 weeks after he suffered a vicious knockout loss that led him to being put in an induced coma in Miami. The 27-year-old heavyweight boxer was a perfect 8-0 in his career. Last year, the first ever Basketball Africa League and Special Olympics unified sports event took place in Dakar, Senegal. The event was held during halftime of a BAL Sahara Conference game that featured Special Olympics athletes competing in a full-court basketball game. At the just concluded NAL conference session, BAL President Amadou Gallo-Fall and former NBA champion and BAL ambassador Ian Mahinmi coached the kids from the Special Olympics in a game of basketball at the Hassan Mustafa Indoor Sports Complex in Cairo, Egypt. Let's check it out.
Today we were having a lot of fun, Special Olympics, just bringing everyone together for the love of the game. We all love basketball. These kids are so inspirational. They're awesome.
And it's not really about the game, it's about sharing time with those Special Olympics. It's about having fun, sharing emotions.
Professional disc jockeys or DJs play a pivotal role in the world of music and entertainment, transcending mere song selection to curate unforgettable musical experiences. In Africa, the evolution of DJing is transforming music and entertainment from a niche hobby to a respected profession. I spoke with two top East African DJs, Rwanda-based DJ Toxic and DJ Key, based in Uganda. We discussed their role as more than just entertainers, but also trendsetters who discover and introduce new music to their audience. Let's check it out. What does it take to be a good DJ? What are some of the...
Go ahead, say it.
I would say personality.
Yeah.
You have to kind of, with any artistry, you kind of have to put a facade up, even if you're not an extrovert. You have to be very personable and be able to keep
Are you an
up
extrovert?
I can be
Yeah.
when I'm working. But you kind of just have to be used to interacting with 100 people all the time.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it's just, after that, I think it's really about dedication and how much time you're putting into your craft.
Yeah.
You have to study a lot.
Now, sometimes you can play like in a week, about 4 different places. Do you ever think back? Is there an experience that really sticks with you when you're playing music and say, back, like, I like the crowd in this place.
Yeah.
I like the vibe and that state,
Definitely, yeah. Especially when you play in four different places, you gotta have like your favorite place.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, these guys, they were really vibing to my, getting into my kind of playlist. But yeah, if it's not that, you can have like 3 places that you vibe the most with. It all depends with the crowd.
So how do you select, how do you balance the selection of music between, like, say, the new upcoming artists and the bangers, the hits?
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of have to do 50-50 in a way.
But aren't you worried that maybe at this point when you're introducing this artist to the crowd, there's a possibility that they might not dig it on the same level as you are?
Yes, but I think it comes down to skill and being able to mix it in a certain way that they wouldn't even care that they don't know the songs. There's sometimes where I'm out and I'm listening to a DJ and majority of their set list are artists I've never heard of or songs I've never heard of, and I'm vibing. just because of the way they've mixed that song. It really, you just have to study the song in and out and make sure that the energy in the song is there.
Yeah.
Guys won't really care if they know the artist or not.
Yeah. What about you, Toxic?
I think for me, it's all about confidence. You know, when you're introducing a new artist, that means you've listened to him over and over again. So that confidence comes in and you're like, okay, I think they're ready for this new, you know? Even if they're not ready, they're going to be seeing you vibing to it. They're going to, you know, he's a DJ at the end of the day. So, you know, want to learn new music. And, you know, for me, I think it's all about confidence. Like, they see you vibing with the new song, they'll
vibe with it.
Yes, sir.
But what is the role of the DJ in the ecosystem of music? Like, what do you see yourself as aside from just entertaining people in that moment?
I think it's very, very important. A lot of newer artists or underground artists really need that push, especially when we're doing gigs like this.
Definitely.
You get to travel and go international. You might as well put on somebody from Rwanda that nobody's ever heard of. It might be their one and only song on Spotify or Apple Music, but you have the opportunity to then give them a platform. And realistically, a lot of people don't go out and find new songs themselves. They will go on the radio or they'll go to a club or a bar and they'll find that song, and that ends up being their playlist.
The film Io Capitano by Italian director Matteo Garrone toured several towns in Senegal where the issue of illegal immigration is still very topical. Nominated for an Oscar and a Golden Globe, the film features Senegalese actors. In a small auditorium in the outskirts of Senegal's capital, Dakar, audiences struggled to hold back tears as they watched the film. Let's take a look.
The crowd spent 2 hours following a pair of Senegalese teenagers as they risked their lives to reach Europe, facing a grueling journey across the Sahara, torture in Libyan jails, and Europe's indifference to their plight. After winning awards at the Venice Film Festival and receiving nominations at the Oscars and the Golden Globes, the film Io Capitano has now returned to where the story began, Senegal. The director, actors, and wider team embarked on a 12-day tour of screenings across the West African nation with the Cine Mauvel Foundation, which ran until the end of April.
This film will help us raise awareness among young people in our respective communities because we don't want them to go through what we saw in this film. I went through all kinds of emotions watching it.
Seydou Sarr, the 19-year-old lead who won an award at the Venice Film Festival, expressed pride at showing the film in his own country.
This film, I can say, changed a lot of things in my life. It made me grow up and learn things that, frankly, I didn't know before.
Mamadou Kouassi, who now works as an intercultural mediator, recounted how he set off for Europe in 2005 at the age of 19.
It's a film that tells my story, a film about me in the first person. I set off from Cote d'Ivoire, crossed the desert, was in Libya for 3 years, and also crossed the Mediterranean Sea to arrive in Libya, and in the end in Italy. It was a hard, tiring journey, an atrocious journey because so many people died. It was difficult. This film is not intended to discourage young people from living. Every young person is free to follow their destiny, to follow their dream. It's to make them aware of the difficulties that I personally went through, that many people were not lucky enough to be alive. But for me, with the luck I had, it was to tell the story of that suffering, but to give young people today the alternative of not suffering as we did.
Kouassi says the public is asking for a sequel following the pair's arrival to Europe. He worked 14 hours, earning barely 20 euros in tomato fields near Naples. He is urging Italy's far-right government to introduce a fairer migrant reception policy.
Fencing offers a ray of hope to young people living in Nairobi's poorest neighborhoods. And despite a lack of equipment, the sword fighting sport is growing in popularity in Kenya.
They caught a striking group as they wandered through Huruma in their pristine white outfits. These young people are heading for their favorite hangout sport, the Savora Fencing Club at the local community center. This is not just a hobby for them, it's a force for good in their lives. Fencing has helped carve a pathway from crime, drugs and other social pressures.
I used to be a gangster. I was in crime. I chose fencing for a way for me to escape out of the hood and escape that lifestyle.
Savora Fencing has made significant strides. The team has produced 15 talented fencers who have earned spots in the national squad, with plans to represent Kenya in the African Olympic qualifiers in Algeria this year. However, challenges persist, particularly regarding the affordability of fencing equipment.
Sometimes it's tough when it comes to competing with well-equipped international countries who are well organized. So what we do, we just move on with the enthusiasm and the obsession. We don't complain or we don't have equipment. We just use what we got.
Savora Fencing Mtani, an initiative under Savora Fencing, offers mentorship and training in fencing to the youth of these impoverished neighborhoods, shielding them from the dangers of their environment. With 45 members, most of whom are students, the team serves as a beacon of hope in the community. Participants are required to become disciplined and put on integrity.
I can't imagine myself without this sport because it has kept me very busy. In my area, many girls have become teenage mothers, and that's not a wonderful life.
Steve Okalu, Secretary General of the Kenya Fencing Federation, acknowledges the uphill battle the sport faces in gaining popularity, but remains optimistic about its future.
Fencing is not a popular sport. I started with about 4 people, and now I'm seeing I'm having good fences. I'm having about 45. By our strategic plan, by 5 years, I know fencing will have reached somewhere.
As Savora Fencing continues to thrive, fueled by the determination of its members and the support of the community, it stands as a testament to the transformative power of sport in even the most challenging environments.
Thank you for watching VOA's Red Carpet. I'm Jackson Vunganye. For more entertainment news, remember to check us out at voaafrica.com. We are also on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube. Don't forget to like, to share, and to subscribe. Until next time, goodbye everyone.
I have not come across a blind person who have become sighted. Unfortunately, I've come across too many sighted people who have become blind.
I stood for like maybe 2 or 3 minutes, was like, a blind individual writing like this. Even a typical human being cannot do most of what he is doing.
They are pushed aside. They look them as perpetual beggars, and it's not supposed to be. Some of us, we are learned. We don't need pity. We need opportunities. We need encouragement.
A February 2021 report by the World Health Organization says that globally, 2.2 billion people have a visual impairment. Of that number, 64 million people suffer from glaucoma, the leading cause of irreversible blindness in the world. It is projected that by the year 2030, 95.4 million people would suffer from the disease. Being a black person is a risk factor. At Ikeja Junior High School, Lagos, Nigeria, there are 55 steps from one end of the hallway to the other. There are 18 steps down the stairwell and 15 steps between classes. Cyril Ojime counted them all because he needed the figures as well as his white cane to find his way around work.
It's more than the cost price.
Cyril is a 48-year-old visually impaired mathematician. He teaches math here to students with and without hearing disabilities in junior secondary classes 1 to 3. This situation presents a peculiar communication challenge.
Imagine they will do sign language, I cannot see what they are signing. I will talk, they cannot hear what I'm saying. So if they want to talk, I cannot even hear them. They will make noise with it. And it has really been a very difficult situation. How are you today? Fine. I had to learn a little bit of sign language, and that gladdened their heart. They love seeing me making that effort to communicate with them. Unfortunately, they feel, because I cannot see them back, they feel saddened about it, that I'm not seeing them sign back to me, communicating with me in their own way.
Here's where 30-year-old Tawalkat Babatunde comes in.
Take notes. It's over the cost price, not the selling price.
She's a sign language specialist at the school. She works with Cyril to coordinate and communicate math lessons to the class.
I'll make sure the class is being arranged. Okay, keep quiet, watch what he's saying, explain. When he's explaining, I'll demonstrate. You do give them classwork and homework. I'll mark it, distribute it to the students. Honestly, the first day we worked together, I stood at just for like maybe 2 or 3 minutes, was like, a blind individual writing like this. Even a typical human being cannot do most of what he is doing. So I was amazed.
Cyril Ojime is a 1996 graduate of Pure and Applied Mathematics from the University of Ilori, Kwara State. He's also an award-winning math and further math teacher with experience spanning 11 different schools in 5 states across Nigeria since 1999. Cyril recalls a childhood experience that motivated him to take up teaching as a career.
I used to have a math teacher. He would just put some problems on the board and I would just be smiling. We would not be able to solve it. So in my mind, I said, I want to be a teacher whereby I will make math to look simpler than what this man is doing.
That resolve made in the early 80s still nudges him to demystify math for children today. However, in 2012, Cyril was diagnosed with glaucoma. This almost puts paid to his life ambition of teaching math.
When I first of all found out 2012, it was like a shock to me. Because as a then, in my family, the extended family, we only know for maybe eye issues such as myopia or long distance issue. Then maybe at was cataracts, but nothing like glaucoma. So it was a surprise to me. And when it started, it was as if it was an insect in my eye that was blurring my vision. So when I was told it was glaucoma, I went to Google it to read more about it. When I learned it was white blindness, I got a bit scared at first, but I said, okay, let me see what can be done.
Dr. Adiola Onokoya is a professor of ophthalmology at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, LUTH. She throws some light on Cyril's condition.
Glaucoma is the commonest cause of irreversible blindness. It's a disease of the nerve of the eye. That nerve is like a cable that connects the eyeball to the brain. In glaucoma, what happens is there's some damage, inside the eyeball where you have those nerves originating from that we call the optic nerve. They are damaged. And what damages them? Well, it's either there isn't enough blood flowing into them or because there's a lot of pressure inside the eye. And once those cells in the eye die, even the eye is opened, is looking at whatever object, but there is no connection. There's a disconnect between what the eye sees and the brain. So the eye looks normal, but no image processing is taking place.
What causes glaucoma and how can it be treated?
Nobody knows the cause. And if the cause of a disease is not known, then there's no cure. It's commoner in blacks than in the Caucasian. There's just an inherent, risk for us to develop glaucoma, being blacks. And then if you have a family history, because genetics is at the basis of glaucoma, really. And then if that pressure is high, that's eye pressure, intraocular pressure, if it's high. And then people who have severe hypertension, people who have very low blood pressure, even people who are using low blood pressure medication but they are overusing it. Management of the glaucoma, we can give eye drops. And if the eye drops are not working well, then you may have to go to surgery. It's a lifelong disease. But suffice is to say that once you have lost vision from glaucoma, it is not recovered.
Cyril was in the prime of his career when glaucoma struck. He was deputy head of the math department, mathematics coordinator, and was vying to be head of senior school before he began to have challenges with his vision. The new reality devastated him. He began to struggle with tasks that were once easy.
Then, to be moving around, it was difficult for me. There are times I would just miss my way when going to a class. I would not really know the right class that I'm going to until I therefore come back and count my steps again. Some of my colleagues will be assisting me in typing, to be marking that I'm going through a phase. And I thank God for my colleagues then who rallied around me to see that I was not failing. Being a private institution, they were not looking at whether you are going through a phase or whether you are going through a medical situation. The other was for you to be effective, no matter what it takes. Be effective. Don't go down. Don't relent in your effort. So I was trying to meet up.
He sought medical help in 2012. However, the doctor's strike paralyzed healthcare services for 6 months. In that time, his eyesight worsened.
For 6 months, when they were on strike, I could not get medical attention, and that was when the eyes deteriorated. Thereafter, when they called back the strike, it was a bit late. The pressure in the eyes became very high and uncontrollable. Despite eye drops and medication, it just skyrocketed. If the doctors were on ground, I would have been able to get the proper medical attention on time. I would be able to at least know the right eye drops to take to preserve the vision. And I'll be able to, at least, if it was not becoming better, at least the doctors would have been able to refer me to Lutz or even to another institution entirely for me to get proper attention.
Indeed, the lack of a reliable healthcare system in Nigeria does jeopardize the health of citizens. Additionally, glaucoma does not show symptoms. Therefore, Cyril only began to have signs of visual impairment in the advanced stages of the disease.
We usually advise that we should get our eyes tested regularly. Once you are above the age of 35, you should make it a point of duty to get your eyes examined once in 2 years. But if you have a family member who suffers from glaucoma, or you have a family member who is blind, you don't know why, you should check your eyes for glaucoma. So regular eye examination is the way to detect it at the very early stage. And once it is detected, treatment is started, and we can then slow down that rate of progression.
As Cyril's eyesight was deteriorating, his work at Olashere Grammar School in Osun State was failing. In March 2015, he made a decision he never imagined he would take in his early 30s. Cyril Ojemen resigned.
I had to meet the HOD, my supervisor, that look, I cannot continue like this, that I don't want to be a burden to the students, members of staff, and especially my immediate colleagues. It's best for me to quit while the ovation was still loud.
Nothing prepared him for the challenges ahead. He was about to face trying times due to a deteriorating vision and a lack of steady income.
2016 to 2018, I will call those 2 years the worst period of my life. Number one, I stopped going out. 2, feeding myself, my family became difficult. 3, paying for children's school fees stopped. After exhausting my gratuity, nothing was coming in, a lot of expenditure came in, no income, so everything was just dry. And I felt for my children because it was something they never expected, never wanted to experience. My wife did all she could to support, but it was all to no avail. She became more or less like a beggar, asking people around for assistance. Myself, I started calling people, calling my brothers, calling those that I know, those who I don't know, to see what they can do to help me out. I got almost to a stage of depression, but my wife and my children, they stood by me, they encouraged me that it's not over.
Just when the night got darkest, some lights shone through. Cyril got to know of the Federal Nigeria Society for the Blind at Kappa, Oshodi. It's a special rehabilitation center for the blind. He didn't have the funds to enroll for the vocational training course. His friends and family began an online campaign to crowdfund his rehabilitation.
The help started with my classmates, Federal Government College Kano classmates. They came in. At first, they helped with the surgery, but after a while, they stepped back to take care of their own personal issues. But by the time I now raised the voice again in the wilderness to say, please, I need help, they came again, sent 1 or 2 things just to keep body and soul together. My elder brother came in, then ex-students, those that I taught, came in as well, and they rallied around, helped me out until I graduated.
With his fees paid, he began a 1-year process to rehabilitate for his new life.
I did braille reading and writing, did rehabilitation and mobility. Mobility is by means of how you move around without being aided with the use of a white cane. This is a white cane. It's a white cane. You just put it on the ground and you just be feeling around. It guides one, a visually impaired person, to move around freely without any fear of falling down. Then I learned how to operate the computer using keystrokes. My students from Ikeja Junior High School.
E4, 40, E4.
So I'm going through their scores. Gradually, I started getting used again to the laptop, something I felt I could not do again. And what really helped me was the application that was installed in the computer. It's called JAWS, Job Access with Speech. On the phone, we have what we call TalkBack. So that's the way we started using handset and the computer in general. The experience changed my life and my way of seeing life in a new perspective.
In 2019, Cyril graduated as the best student at the rehabilitation school. Thereafter, he enrolled in another course by Sight Savers, an international non-governmental organization dedicated to empowering the visually impaired with digital skills.
Sight Savers really helped me out in terms of how to replan yourself, how to organize your career, how to work out your CV to make it to be a one-page document, how to prepare for an interview, what kind of questions to expect, how to do follow-up after an interview, then preparing for the work environment, and it gave me that boost and that confidence to be bold, to be self-confident, to be to have that charisma, to have that character, to move on. So Sight Savers did that for me.
Despite all this training, he was not quite prepared for the challenge of getting back into the labor market as a person with disability. Luckily, an old connection came through.
The person's name is Mrs. Grace Egbobi. I will be grateful to her. She got in touch with me and said, there's an opening in the public sector. They are looking for a maths teacher, and she's going to submit my name, being that that's my course. And an interview was conducted, and today I was employed. I was posted to Ikeja Junior High School. When I first of all met the principal, Mr. Safiu, he said he's not going to reject me because he sees in me something that will be of benefit to the school.
I gave him a brief interview in my office, and he told me that he will be able to handle mathematics skillfully. So I said, let me give him a try. And since then, I've been watching him. And what I noticed about him is that he has great passion for this job. You will never see him coming late to work. He's always prompt in the class, and he does the work with passion.
I'm happy his decision of accepting me is paying dividends now. And ever since I stepped in here, I've been putting my best, and I believe the best is still yet to come.
Just when he thought getting a job was hard enough, commuting to and from work as a visually impaired man became a tough road to travel.
When I leave the compound, I stay at the gate side. The person that do help us at times, he comes in, he will take me to the bus stop. I will enter a bus going to Oshodi. I will drop at Kappa. From Kappa, I will take a bus coming down to PWD. Drop at PWD. When I get down, God has been faithful. Somebody is always there. They will take me across the railway track and to the other side, bring me over to this side, to the GRA side, drop me at the gate. At times it will be a teacher, a fellow teacher. At times it will be a student. At times it will just be a passerby who has a measure of kindness in him or her.
This is David Okon, former president of the Nigeria Association of the Blind. He is the current chairman of the association's education committee. Okon was born sighted, but became blind as an infant. Like Cyril, he had a hard time securing a job despite his skills and education. He's now a staunch advocate for equal opportunities for persons with disabilities.
Blind people can work as long as they have the education that is required. They need training like other people. It might be some specialized training, but honestly, it doesn't cost the price of a rocket. They need equipment that will make them function appropriately. That might cost a little more than what you give. But every employer should think this way.
Okon also analyzes the role that the Nigerian society has played in perpetuating the belief that persons with disabilities are outcast.
The society is yet to come to terms with the fact that a blind person or a person with disability is a member of the society. Or they see him as that lesser being. You can even hear things like, this handsome man or this beautiful girl or lady is blind. That is just nothing but pity. But are they ready to see you as an equal stakeholder in the society, in the organization, in the workplace, in school environment, even in the church? The answer is not in the affirmative for now. A blind person would have ordinarily not been so disadvantaged if the society was more enabled. The environment, the road networks was not built with me in mind. And even when the government even did some walkways, pavements that you could walk and not be run down by moving traffic, you find out that that is not possible because the walkways have now become markets. The bike owners, ones we call Okada, park their bikes on top there. And so I now it would then be as if I'm more handicapped than I should be.
Drawing from his personal experience with disability discrimination, Cyril makes a passionate plea for an inclusive society.
To those who have physical disabilities. They are pushed aside. They look them as perpetual beggars. And it's not supposed to be. Some of us, we are learned. We don't need pity. We need opportunities. We need encouragement. Those who are lacking education, they need to go to school. Those who need employment, they need to get employment. Those who need to even start their own crafts and their own little business, they need such help.
Every 6 minutes, someone is told they're going blind. Leading medical journal Lancet Global Health projects that global blindness will triple by 2050 to 115 million. Okon speaks to these figures as he calls for a paradigm shift in how society views and treats persons with disabilities.
I have not come across a blind person who have become sighted. Unfortunately, I've come across too many sighted people who have become blind. The question then is, why don't you think of making the society a better place? In case it will be that person you know, or even you, because there is nothing that says that it cannot be you tomorrow, so that will not join us in the crying and lamentations that we're going through.
In January 2019, President Muhammadu Buhari signed the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act. The act criminalizes discrimination against persons with disabilities and requires all public organizations to reserve at least 5% of employment opportunities for these persons. But that law has the challenge of enforcement. As for Cyril Ojimen, he has found a job that pays him 2 times Nigeria's minimum wage, and he plans to retire in the teaching profession. However, many other PWDs are not as lucky. They can be found on the streets, begging for alms to survive, or locked up in homes, hidden by their families for fear of discrimination.
Essay Designs is a fashion accessory label that specializes in the design and creation of handcrafted bags and footwear. I knew I was going to do something in fashion. I didn't know what exactly it was going to be, but I knew I would be in fashion. If it's to be the cleaner in fashion, whatever, but I have to be in fashion. When we started off with just strictly bag making. But then you get people say, oh, can I get a matching shoe? And then over time, people say, oh, I would like to give my boyfriend a wallet, but I want it with Ankara or something. So over time, we had to listen to our customers and infuse their ideas into our brand. Okay, we wanted something with the African touch, with the Nigerian feel. We make leather bags. But if I'm making a leather bag and I put it in a store, if you don't know Essay Designs is Nigerian, you probably think it's a foreign bag. So what's the point of promoting something that is not, if you look at, you can't link it to Africa, you can't link it to Nigeria. When there's something to promote Africa, when there's something to promote Nigeria, we also want to empower our artisans here. So that's why we keep our content local, raw materials local, production local. We still get a lot of people from around the world, wholesale clients.
At least your treacherous body would have been manure for the motherland. Listen to the words of a corpse. You cannot win this war.
My production career started off practically by
some form of divine intervention. But I work in TV production, so and I've done that in advertising for over 20 years. I do storytelling as well. I do narrative. I've done films, TV series, etc. I taught myself to draw, and that meant 4 hours of sketching every day, minutely competent. Where people will say this doesn't suck, you actually have to practice.
For God's sake, Emeka, we don't even have enough guns or food. What were you thinking?
If you and Uzogo had not unleashed your unique brand of madness last January, we wouldn't be swimming in beers and blood.
It was a revolution!
I was one of my uncles, and he got me a job in, then it was Vanguard newspapers in Apapa. And I got to meet all my heroes because in those days, I knew every cartoonist of every Nigerian publication by name because I would always look for the signature. Advertising was obviously the way to go. English then, if you're doing English, you're either going to be a teacher or something. I was like, no, this is a cool industry. This industry is really cool. It's really being paid to be creative. I was sent around the agency to learn every aspect of advertising. And when I got to TV production, the then head of TV production of ESO and you, then Mr. Greg Odutayo, said to me, okay, I want him. So he just made a request. There are many highlights. I've won awards for films I've made, TV series I've done. But let me just jump forward. The most recent thing I've done I'm extremely proud of is being one of the 3 directors on MTV Sugar, Niger. Then you have to learn. So when I came into production, I was always asking questions. So I was on a quest to know why this visual image was better than this visual image. And that got me into studying and learning about production. It helps to be always focused on what will make you win. There's a very healthy sense of motivating yourself to always get things right. Make sure your work is up to standard. It resembles anything else across any other platform across the world. The second thing is it must have your identity. It must have your strong cultural identity.
This is it. I will take you through this amazing lesson today.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.